Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to Engineering Adda. So today in this video we are going to see the difference between @component and @bean annotation. In the previous couple of videos I have covered about the difference between the controller, REST controller, request body, response body, request parameter and path variable, and so many differences videos I have already uploaded on my channel. You can go and watch it out. In this video we are going to see the difference between @component and @bean annotation. Okay. So coming to the next slide, I have listed out couple of differences between both of them. So I will try to read it out for you. So let's say here for the component, there are three other annotations that you have come across that are @controller, @service, and @repository. These all annotations work like a component annotation itself, but based upon the work, like let's say you can put a annotation on a class which handles the APIs, then there you can put @controller at the place of component. Similarly, where you have written the service logic, in that class you can put @service annotation at place of component. Okay. And similarly, where you have written out the DAO layers, you can use @repository. So you can see these three annotations are same as the component annotation, but based upon the work we can use it. So these three annotation can be used at the place of component according to the work assigned to that class. @component is used to auto detect and auto configure beans using class path scanning. So wherever you have defined like this @component or @controller, service and repository, all these annotation are the class level annotations. So let's say you have created one class, and at the top of that class you have defined this @component annotation, then it will automatically detect and configure the beans for this particular class where you have defined @component to the application context. Okay. As long as these classes are in under our bash package, or Spring Boot is aware of another package to scan, a new bean will be created for each of these classes where you have defined the @component. Okay. It should be under the scope of the what should Spring Boot. Okay. So then it will automatically scan those packages and will see on which class @component annotation is written. It will automatically try to create a bin for this and assign that bin to the application context. Okay. @bean and component are mapped as one to one, that means one bin per class. Okay. Now coming to the next point, these annotations, controller, service and repository, are class level annotation that I already have told you. Okay. Now coming to the bean. So here you can see @bean is used to declare a single bean rather than letting Spring Boot do it. Okay. So in the case of component, what we are doing, we were just writing the @component on the class, and Spring Boot is taking care of automatically creating the bean and assigning that bean to the application context. But in the case of bean annotations, @bean is used to declare a single bean rather than letting Spring Boot do it automatically. As in case of the component, we have to declare, or according to our requirement, we can configure the bean for us. Okay. So it decouples the declaration of the bean from the class definition and let you create and configure bean exactly how you choose it. So this @bean allows or gives you more control on creating of the beans. Okay. And this is a method level annotation. Okay. So @bean are used at method level and can be configured as required. So coming to the implementation, I will tell you where you can write @component and where you can write @bean, and how the bean is created in the case of @component and in the case of @bean annotations. Okay. So let's get started for that. So let me try to go to the IntelliJ, and here let me try to create one application for you. So go to the file, new project, and let's say Spring Boot component versus bean. Okay, select a Maven and go next. Let me select Lombok and web and create it. Open in a new tab, and it will take few seconds to configure it and download the dependency. So just okay, I think I have closed this. So just wait for few seconds. Once it is done, then we can start doing the development and try to utilize the component and bean annotation. Okay, so just wait for it. I think it is done now. Let me try to open it. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a controller, a service, and an entity. So I will try to create a controller where I will try to create one get API which will be accessing the list of users, which will be giving you the list of users. Okay, so here we are not going to use any database. Okay, directly what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list where I will try to assign couple of users in it, and then we'll directly use that list in the service, and then we'll try to call that service method inside the controller. Okay, so let me try to do the development for this, and then we'll see. So just create a entity, let's say user entity, and let me try to annotate this at the rate all argument constructor, no argument constructor, and data. Okay, now we are not going to use at the rate entity because we are not dealing with the database here. Okay, so let me try to create couple of attributes here. So let's say private integer id and private string name, and let's say private string address. Okay, so I have created these three attributes. Now let me try to create package service dot okay, so it is service package. Let me try to create a class here which would be user service. Okay, now let me try to do a post construct and try to create a method init, and here I will try to what I will do, I will try to create couple of users and assign it to the list of users. So let me try to create a list private final list of users. Let me try to import the list here. Sorry, okay, why it is imported from Java util. Yeah, list user list something like that, or list it would be equal to new array list, and let me try to import the array list as well. So we are good now. Now here let me try to create one user, new user. Let's say it is the name is let's say Ram, and let's say address is Bangalore, and let's say the ID is 1. Okay, so we have created one user, and let me try to assign this to the list above that we have created. Okay, so this dot list dot add user, and this is the post construct. Now let me try to create a method here. So the post construct annotation, what it will do, it will, whenever you are going to run the application, it will create one user which is the ID is 1 and name is Ram, and address is Bangalore. It will create this user and assign this user to the list. that we have created above, and this list we are going to use, and going to use it in the method that I'm going to create here in the user service, and that method will try to use inside the controller or the API that we are going to use. So let me try to create the method. It would be returning the list of user, let's say get list, and return this dot list. Okay, so this is the method that I have created, which is get list. Let's say, let me try to do it like get list of users. Okay, now let me try to go to the create the package controller, and okay, and here let me try to create one class called user controller. Okay, now let me try to create one get mapping here, and let's say it is users, and it would be list of users, let's say get all users, and we have to, what we have to do, we have to auto wire the service reference, user service reference, so that we can directly call this get user of get list of user method. Okay, so before going to uh, create or auto wire the instance of the user service inside the user controller to call this get list of user method, let me try to show you some cool feature of Spring Boot. Okay, so here I'm using the IntelliJ Ultimate version, and it provides the option of Spring. So you can see this option, more tool window. If you click here, you will find the option of Spring. So in this Spring tab, it shows the list of beans that is being created inside the whole application. Okay, so if you open this Spring tab, just click on it, and here you can see it has opened the tab for you, and it is showing you this is the bean that is being created inside the application in your whole application flow. So you can see this is the class Spring Boot component versus bean application. You can see this is the one class that it is showing here, and for this class one bean is being created here. You can see inside the bean graph, you can see this bean. So for this particular class, the bean is created. There is a no bean for the other classes that we have created yet. So we have created the entity, we have created the user service, we have created the user controller, but for none of these classes, the bean is being created. Okay. If we'll go to the Spring Boot component versus bean application class, you can see this class is annotated with at the rate Spring Boot application. This is Spring Boot application is a combination of three different application annotations like at the rate component, at the rate configuration, at the rate enable auto configuration. So at the rate component is there for this class. That means it is creating the bean of this class and assigning it to the application context. And that is why we are able to see that bean here in the Spring tab. And if you'll go to the bean graph, you can see the bean for it, right? You can see it. Yeah. So this is these are the more options that you can explore, and this is the thing that the bean of this class is being created. Now let me try to go to the user service, and here when we are going to call the get list of user method, we need the reference or the object for this user service class. So what we can do, we can directly come to the user controller, and we can auto wire the reference of this user service class here in the user controller. So let me try to do a auto wire private user service, and let's say user service. Let me try to import the user service here. Okay, so we have created the reference of this user service here and we have auto wired it, but you can see in the auto wire we are getting some error. Okay, so it is showing incorrect auto wiring in Spring Bean component option. So why we are getting this error? Because this user service class is not annotated with at the rate component, or the bean of out of this class is not being created and assigned to the application context. So if the bean is not being created for this user service class, then we cannot use the bean anywhere else by auto wiring the reference of this class. So first of all we need to create the bean out of it. So here we are going to use at the rate service annotation, or you can use at the rate component annotation as well. So let me try to show you. When you will go inside the at the rate service annotation, let me try to go inside it. So you can see at the rate component annotation is already uh, used there to create the at the rate service annotation. Okay, so that is what I was telling you, that we can use at the rate service, at the rate repository, at the rate controller annotation at the place of at the rate component notation according to the work of that particular class. So here in this user service class we are writing the service layer or service logic. So that is why I have annotated this class with at the rate service. Now we have annotated this class with at the rate service or with at the rate annotation. Now the bean for this particular class will be created automatically by the Spring Boot, and then that bean will be assigned to the application context, and then we can use that. So you can see I have annotated this with at the rate at the rate service, or you can use at the rate component also. Now come here to the user controller and let me try to so you can see let me try to auto wire it again. So okay, so there is one mistake that I am doing is I need to create the bean for this class as well. Okay, so you can see we have annotated this class with at the rate rest controller. That means this rest controller is also a kind of component through which the bean for this user controller class is being created and assigned to the application context. So if you'll go inside this at the rate component, you can see it is annotated with at the rate controller. Sorry, if you'll go inside the rest controller annotation, you will see it is annotated with at the rate controller, and if you'll go inside the controller, it is annotated with at the rate component. So at the last you can see that user controller, when annotated with at the rate rest controller, that means it is also a kind of component. So once this class is annotated with at the rate component, then the bean for this class is being created and assigned to the application context by Spring Boot itself. So what we did, we have created the bean for this class, we have created the bean for this user controller, and now we have auto wired the reference of the user service. Now let me try to use the user service and then try to call the method that we have created inside the user service. So what was the method? Let me try to go there, and it is get list of users. So copy this, come here and just paste it here. Now let me try to return it. Okay, so we are getting some error. Let me try to see. So it should be public. Okay, so we make it public here. Now we are good. So the basic use of at the rate component is to create a bean out of that particular class where it is annotated and assign it to the application context. Okay, as simple as that. Now come here to the Spring, and this time you can see the bean for user controller and bean for user service is created, because we have used the annotation called at the rate rest controller and at the rate service. That means the bean for both of them is created, you can see here in this tab. And if you go to the bean graph, you can see here as well. And here it is saying that you have auto add the user service inside the user controller. You can see this, right? So this is about the user, sorry, this is about the component. Now let me try to run this application and try to access this API to show you if it is working fine or not. And after that, I will try to show you the use case for the @bean annotation. Okay, so this application is up and it is up on the port number 8080. Let me try to go to the browser and try to hit it. So http localhost 8080 slash users. I think it is users. So here you can see we are getting the list of user. I have only one user which we have created inside the post construct. So when we are running the application, it is loading that and then we are using it. So let me try to go to the IntelliJ, and we have like this application is working fine, this API is working fine. So let me try to give you the whole flow, and I will tell you how @component annotation is being used and what its purpose is. So here we are in the API, and this class is annotated with @REST controller. So somewhere @component annotation is being used here. It is creating the bean of this class and assigning to the application context. Now inside this class we have used user service, and inside the user service also we have annotated this class with @service annotation. That means the bean for this class is also created and assigned to application context. So we can directly use this reference to call the method inside it. Now we are calling this method. This method is returning the list of users that we have post constructed here, and that's it. Okay. So this is how @component annotation works. Now coming to @bean annotation. So let me try to go back to the slide, and here you can see @bean annotation is used to declare a single bean rather than letting Spring Boot do it. So here when we are going to use @bean annotation, we are be ourselves going to write the configuration for the particular method where we are going to define @bean. Okay, so let me try to show you those things. So we'll try to create a bean for this particular method and annotate that method with @bean annotation. Then only the bean for that particular method will be created and assigned to application context, and then we can use it. So let me try to go to the IntelliJ, and let me try to create one package here. Let's say bean. Okay, and let me try to create. Okay, so let it be here. Let me try to remove this package from here. Let me try to do it in the Spring Boot component versus bean application. So this class is already annotated with @bean, sorry, @Spring Boot application. That means it is already annotated with @configuration, @component, and @enable auto configuration. So this annotation combines of three annotations. So @configuration is already there. So when we are going to create a bean out of the method by assigning @bean annotation, then we have to configure that by ourselves. Okay, so automatically, because this class is having @configuration class, so we can directly create or use @bean annotation here. So once we'll use the bean annotation, it will create the bean out of that method, and because this class is already having @configuration annotation with it, so it will also assign it to the application context. Okay, that is why I'm going to create the bean here. Else what you can do, you can separately create one class. Okay, so let me try to do that so it will be more clear for you. So let's say it is config and let's say it is user config class. Okay, now you have to annotate this class with @configuration. Okay, let me try to import this, and here you can create a method that will be returning the user object. Okay, so let me try to do that. So let's say you can do protected, something like that. Let's say it is returning the user, and let's say get user bean, something like that you can say. Okay, let me try to import, and let's say this is returning return new user. Okay, and let me try to create a user. So let's say this time the user ID is 2, and let's say the name of user is Deepak, and let's say its address is Noida. Okay, and we are returning it. Okay, so this is the method which is creating a new user and returning it. Now let me try to annotate this method with @bean annotation. So what will happen, it will it is creating the object of this particular user. That means it is creating a bean of this particular user, and because this method is assigned with @bean, the bean will be created, and then because this class is assigned with @configuration annotation, it will automatically be configured with the Spring Boot application context. So now let me try to go to the Spring and try to show you. So you can see this time also the bean for user config class is also created, and here you can see get user bean. This method name is also listed here, which is creating the bean of a user. Okay, you can see this. So the bean for this whole classes are being created. You can see for the method get user bean, one bean is created, and for the use config class, the bean is also created. Okay, so that means the Spring tab is showing you that the bean for this get user bean method is created, and use config class bean is also created. Okay, now let me try to use this get user bean method somewhere so that you can like we can call it inside some API, and then try to hit that API and then see if the user, which is Deepak, is being logged or created or not while hitting the API. So let me try to go to the user controller. If you are not getting my idea, let me try to implement it, then you will get it. So what we did, we have created the bean of this method. That means it is being created and assigned to the application context. Now we can use it. So let me try to go to the controller, and now let me try to auto wire a user here. Okay, so it should be picking up the bean that is already being created. Okay, that means the bean that we have creating for the user here, which is get user bean. So when we are going to auto wire that user reference here, it will pick up from there. Okay, so let me try to do user. Now let me try to create one API which will be trying to log this user reference. Okay, so let's say it is get user, and get user method, and this time let me try to print out the user that we have created or that we have auto wired above. So let me try to do that, and this time let's say it is not returning anything. Let's say it is returning a string, something like that. Okay, and when we are logged in, let's say return bean for user is created. Okay, created and assigned to application context. Okay, that's it. So let me try to run this application and try to hit this endpoint, which is get user. So copy this, go to the browser, and let me try to open this, and it is get users. Okay, so our application, yeah, it is up. Now let me try to go to the browser again and try to hit it. So here you can see we are getting this message, which is bean for user. Bean for user is created and assigned to application context. So that means we should, whatever we are logging here, it should be coming in the log as well. So you can see this, right? This is the user that we have created and it is coming in the log as well. So if you go to the use config, here inside the get user bean method, we have created this user. That means when we are defining at the red bean at the top of a method, then it will be creating a or expecting a object out of this method. Okay, so once we have annotated this method with at the red bean, it will expect a object out of it. So here we are returning that object. This object or this bean is assigned to the application context and directly we can use it. So you can come here to the user controller, you can see we have auto add this user and we are just logging this user. Okay, and it is working fine. So this is the basic difference between at the rate component and at the rate bean annotation. Okay, so let me try to summarize again that, let me try to go to the user service. So at the rate service annotation is used at the class level. At the rate bean annotation is used at the method level. The purpose of both of them is to create the bean out of this class or method and assign it to the application context. But in the case of at the rate service, you can see everything is done by the Spring Boot itself. But in the case of bean annotation, we are creating the bean or object with ourselves. Okay, so that is the basic difference, and this is about the implementation of it. So if you like the video, please hit the like button, and you can go to my channel, and there you can find lot of videos on the difference thing. You can see the difference between risk controller and controller, the difference between request parameter and path variable, request body and the response body. So everything I have covered here, and this is about the video, guys. If you like the video, please hit the like button, and if you are new to my channel, please subscribe the channel, and if you want to get the exclusive content out of my channel, you can join my channel as well. So this is about the video. Thanks.